Hey there everyone! Today we will be painting a CAV from their Kickstarter. This is from the Ace level package, so it's one of the 8 that got sent early, if you were lucky enough to have it. And I'm doing the Tiamat. And luckily enough, since it's basically 2 big chunks of plastic, there's not a lot of reshaping the bones on this bone that we need. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go in with some blue liner and a big brush. Is that a big brush? That's a big brush. Because I have heard that the liners do really well as a bones primer. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm doing blue because that is kind of the general color scheme that I'm going to be doing. There's a brown out there that a lot of people use. And I hadn't planned on it to use this as the base, but I guess I'm using it for this. And I'm still debating if this will be a every paint stroke video or if I'll cut away after a certain number of layers. That really needs a lot of water. I've actually never used the blue liner, and so it's several years old. Now I've pondered trying to make a squad, because typically you have 4 units in a squad, and you know, can paint them all the same. I don't particularly plan to do that, so you just take this as an example of what one might look like. And of course, with the Ace level package, you get 4 of these. So the question is do I paint all 4 the same, or do I want to do each one different? And I'm not going to do a painting series on all 4. But one thought I did have, and I've got off screen here, I've got all my paints that I intend to use for it. I'll explain that in a little bit. But one thought I did have is that I can paint each one rotating. It's probably about best word I can think of, because I've got a dark blue, a light blue, and an orange and a red. And these were all randomly selected by Excel. What I did is I just had it calculate a random number between 0 and 255, and then did that 3 times to generate the red, blue, and green of that color, and then just pumped that into a Microsoft Paint color. And Reaper actually has a color match tool, and so I just used that to get approximately what color it is, and for the most part I was happy with what it came up with. I did not like the light blue it came up with. It decided that was concrete gray. And I was like, no, that's not the color I want. Besides that, I don't have that color. So I just went through and picked out a blue that I think was close to what I was seeing on screen. But anyway, what I may do, you know what, I think this needs to be thinned down a lot. So hopefully, because it almost covered up all the detail there. This is a lot darker than I had imagined it. But again, that may be because it's thick. I guess it wouldn't hurt to every brush stroke video. And then again, if I'm having to do 6 or 7 layers just to get a good color scheme on there, it may not be the most interesting video in the world. But that's the way it goes, I suppose. I think I will do that. I will paint for a while, and then call it good. I'll paint off screen. I'm probably making a complete and total mess of this figure with the inconsistent liner here. But anyway, going back to the rotating paints. So one vehicle may have a strong dark blue color applied to it, and that be its detail. And then on the next one, I don't put so much dark blue on it. Now I'm painting this together just to mention, but I do intend to try to separate these and paint them separately, just because it'll be a pain to try to get in there. Although, what I may do instead is go ahead and paint the top here how I want it, and then paint the rest of it like paint the underside here. It's hard to get. I don't know. Guess we'll just have to see how I feel at the time, because I can imagine it's going to be a little hard to paint out everything underneath here the way I would like to. I think I've just got way too much paint here in the creases. We'll cover it up later. And I did wash this really good, but it's still puddling fairly hard. But it looks like if I put everything on a little thick, that kind of works. Bounce, bounce, ooh, bounce, bounce, drop. Normally, well, originally, I bought some Fusion plastic spray paint for these. And then I did a test, and I don't think it works good with this plastic. So I basically wasted my money on that. I'll have to use the paint for something else. I've been using it for the metal calves I've been painting. So, and if you go into the spray paint route, I'm a big believer that it's the acetone in the spray paint that's reacting with the Reaper bones material, which, if I say it right, is a polyvinyl chloride, PVC. So, in theory, any PVC paint would work, but it's also cold right now. This is recording in January, so it's not exactly spray paint weather to begin with. And while I do have a nice airbrush and a nice compressor for inside, I will not be airbrushing this, because I do want to do it in such a way that someone's just starting out and all they've got is a brush and a few bottles of paint can do the same thing I'm doing here, which you can't see because everything's buried. It was all up inside, just trying to get it covered. At some point here I'm going to have to stop because I will not be able to hold it anymore. Which means, really, I should go back to my old standard. Block of wood, drop a blue tack. Should have done this first. Oh look, now I can finish painting the rest of it. And I do plan to base this one with the hex that came with the ace level, in which I think I'm not going to make any promises on what bases are going to be shipped and which ones are not. And I'm not quite sure what type of basing I'm going to put on here. What should I do? Winter scene, which I guess I should mention. This is a Riddleic faction, and Reaper does make a Riddleic blue, and I'm probably mangling the name. Riddleic blue, which I will not be using, but that would be one option, to just jump in and pick that color if you're doing that, which blue liner would work on that just as well. But anyway, I was looking up the name Tiamat since I don't really know it. And it's an ancient Mesopotamian goddess, which is basically, according to Wikipedia, the goddess of chaos represented by the ocean. So, god of the ocean. Goddess of the ocean. And often depicted sea serpents, hydras, that sort of thing. And then in Dungeons and Dragons, they made a Tiamat goddess, and she was a chromatic dragon thing. I never got into Dungeons and Dragons. Wanted to, never had enough friends or a game store nearby to get into it. So, one thing one paint scheme I had thought of before I did the random was to paint it in like a aquatic camouflage, which according to the fluff I have read, I think it was Cost of War, some little novella they put out a long time ago, may or may not still be applicable. Now they can submerge, which, you know, almost spaceship you'd kind of expect. Not out of the ordinary that maybe this is lurking off in coastal waters and part of a elite aquatic group specializing in marine landings, that sort of thing. But how likely is that to show up in a scenario or a tabletop? Dunno. I don't play CAV. Eventually we'll learn. But the rules at this point in time aren't even out. Anything I'd learn, it'd be just speculations or from the preview. I'm just going over any little white spots I can find. Trying to get very consistent. I don't know. I have been able to pretty much touch everything with the brush. Of course, I have been slathering it on. I'm debating again. Neither of these pieces are attached yet, other than just... oh, God. Other than squished together. And there are some players who intend to keep doing that, so that they can take it apart and put it into storage. So there's something to be said about not gluing them together, but I think I will go in with the aim of eventually gluing it permanently together. Just super glue. So, I think his blue lining is done, and I'm going to try to keep these videos short, but I'm almost positive this is a full video. It's not what I meant to say, but it's going to say that, well, I mean for the videos to be short. I'm not necessarily certain this one is. So, my paint on the palette has run out anyway. So I am calling him good for now. I'll let this dry and have it serve as the primer for the coats of paint coming up. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 2.